electronic age. In this edition, University Computer Games. The computer giants dig in on campus, hoping for future dividends. Also, a report on SoftCom, the recent software expo in New Orleans. Later, a look at laser art in the Great Northwest and new tech billboards in Texas. All this and more in this edition of the New Tech Times.
The New Tech Times is brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change. Wausau works. And by the collective voice of the consumer electronics industry, CEG, the Consumer Electronics Group, Electronic Industries Association.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Johnson. Welcome to this week's edition of the New Tech Times. From laser art to electronic billboards, the New Tech Times is full of surprises. Now, if you're a New Tech Times regular, it comes as no surprise to you that computer companies are working to get their computers into our educational institutions. We've reported this to you before. Brand loyalties developed young can pay handsome dividends. As college graduates, these students may be influencing the computer purchases of the firms and institutions they work for, as well as spending their own dollars. That's why many products are distributed on college campuses. So, why not computers? All across America, colleges are making their choices. We picked one to tell the story. From Ohio State, here's Gary Probst's report.
College life, it's football games, mingling with co-eds and hitting the books. Such activities are part of what a major university like Ohio State is all about. Among the traditional scenes, you will also find an increasing number of students working on computers. There's a reason for that. Computer companies are rushing to put their products on campus with the drive and agility of a Buckeye halfback. Big companies like IBM, Apple, and Digital Equipment are giving big discounts to students and faculty members. Some computers are being sold at 30% off. Others are simply being donated to the college for a number of reasons. It's a tax write-off. It encourages new ideas for the use of the computer. And a donation or discount puts the machine in front of students. The trade-off is that people from computer companies hope alumni will support their products when former students enter the business world.
You bet. I don't think there's a company out there that's giving away a computer that doesn't do it because they want more business. I think there are certain exceptions to that, but in general, it's a planting the seed kind of an approach, and I think the theory is that if they get the computer out there, they get the students using it, the faculty understanding it, that when the university or college gets ready to buy more, that'll be a logical choice.
There's a lot at stake for computer companies. Solomon's estimate of the national college market is $2 to $8 billion per year. At Ohio State, George Boffman negotiates cooperative deals between computer firms and the university.
Well, I think it's a mutually beneficial program. I think that to the extent that the universities are being used, let's say by, say, manufacturer A decides that this particular campus is going to have all of their equipment. I've not known any university who has ever signed an exclusive contract with any manufacturer to say, we're only going to use yours.
Many campuses like Ohio State are being inundated with computers. That raises the question of what should be done with them. Some academics at OSU want to require computer theory course for all freshmen. That proposal is causing heated debate.
One might take the position that in order to be a well-rounded, educated individual, you should really understand how a computer works on the inside. You should understand what goes on in there to produce these results. And on the other hand, a person could take the position that I don't really want my student to have to know all that. All I want my student to know is that this computer's here, it's a tool, you do this and you get that out. Sort of a black box approach.
Some professors believe that requiring computer courses would be overzealous. Dr. Russ Scaverill has been teaching the use of computers in genetics for years. He says learning the basics of a computer is no big deal.
That kind of approach sort of assumes that there are students out there who will know absolutely nothing about the computer, you know, that they've never even heard of it. I don't know if that's true. I think most college students have some awareness of the computer. And maybe if there is a student that is genuinely unaware. I mean, it's like saying students are unaware of traffic lights. I find that hard to believe. You know, we see them all the time.
But students at Ohio State appear to support mandatory computer education.
I think it's a good idea. I'm signed up to take my first computer course next quarter, and I think it'll help me just as an overall background in life. My major is phys ed, and I know right off that I won't be doing a lot of computer work in that field to begin with, but later on in life I may want to branch off and have that background to help me out.
Well, it could help you, I guess. A lot of classes anymore, they have computerized tests where you can take the test once and you go back and at your own time when you're ready to take the test again, go back to computer, call it up, and take the test.
The debate about what should be taught extends beyond pure academic argument into the world of campus politics.
It's to the point where every department could potentially come in and say, hey, we want to teach computing in X, how to use computers in genetics, how to use computers in pharmacy, how to use them in astronomy, you name it. Somebody will come by with a course, how to use computers in their field, and all these courses may teach the same material.
Whitey is chairman of a committee which is trying to deal with the issues of what should be taught and who should teach it. The two sides of the argument are summed up through analogies.
I always liken it to the difference between understanding how an automobile works and how to overhaul the engine if it fails versus how to drive the car. And one could take either view, that if you understand how the car works internally, if there's a problem, you might be able to fix it.
I think you can own and use and enjoy a dog without being a veterinarian. Now, you may need the veterinarian. It's nice to have the veterinarian there, but I still think that you don't have to be a veterinarian to enjoy a dog.
While the professors debate on how to use computers, the people who manufacture the machines will continue to give universities an infusion of deeply discounted hardware, knowing that if they are successful, someday computers will be as prolific on campus as textbooks.
Computers may soon be as common as textbooks in our education system, but some wonder, at what price? And many wonder about the ethical issues involved when a school accepts free or discounted equipment. Others ask, are the poor and disadvantaged schools getting the same breaks as the rich Ivy League and state schools? One person who's thought a lot about these issues is Franklin Peterson. He publishes a newsletter and a syndicated column about computers, and he's joined me here in the studio. Welcome to the New Tech Times, Frank.
Good to see you, Nick.
These are days of tight budgets for schools. What's wrong with accepting free computers or discounted computers from companies?
Well, most of them are being offered on discount. And even with the discounts I've heard, the three major companies offering computers to colleges are hoping to collect $100 million between now and 1986. That's quite a discount. Imagine what that $100 million could do to the teaching budgets in these colleges if it were spent on teachers' salaries instead of on computers.
Well, don't you think computers are essential in this day and age? We hear a lot of talk about computer literacy.
I think computer literacy belongs to the executives at the computer corporations. You and I don't have to be computer literate if we simply want to survive in the computer age. Heck, you don't have a nuclear reactor in your home, but we're in the nuclear age. And you don't have your own satellite, we're in the space age. So why should somebody consider he's got to have a computer to be a part of the computer age?
What do you think that kids in school, grade school, junior high, high school, college, what do they need to know about computers?
What they need to know about computers is the same they need to know about the refrigerator at home, about the electric typewriter in the office, about the 6-ton metal stamping press in the factory. They have to know that it's there. They have to know enough of the fundamental reading, writing, and arithmetic in order to, if they decide to go into computers as a profession, they can learn all they have to know about the computer as a professional. But beyond that, It's there. Use it if you have to, if you want to.
Do you see any use for a computer in the home?
Makes a dandy doorstop. It's a conversation piece. For somebody who enjoys computers as a hobby, it's certainly a lot safer than a radial arm saw. Costs about as much. But that's about it. I cannot imagine somebody buying a computer, sitting down and typing in the entire James Beard cookbook. I'd rather be cooking.
There are also computers used in the home essentially for business purposes. Someone who wants to run a business as a bookkeeper, someone who is a writer like yourself might want to work out of a home rather than an office and would have a computer there. That certainly is true, isn't it?
That's a whole different ballpark. That is a valuable use of the computer. Then spending $1,000, $5,000, $20,000, whatever your budget can stand, it's well worth it. But to go out and spend $2 grand so your kid can have the shiniest new computer on the block, unless you can really afford that kind of luxury, it just isn't worth it.
Do you know of any uses that could fairly be called home computer uses?
One of the finest uses for the computer in the home is somebody with a learning disability or some other form of physical or learning handicap. The computer can be a great tool for that. It can be fabulous for some child who really gets turned on by computers. There's something magical about them, and they just captivate certain people. And if your child is one of them and really shows an interest in the computer and wants to work with it beyond zapping the Space Invaders, which is, it's a toy, a very expensive toy, zapping Space Invaders, but wants to really learn about computers and you can afford it, consider it.
But even those are essentially educational uses.
Exactly.
In terms of home uses, no one I know is putting recipes into a computer, although they may be. Do you know of any home uses that are not either business uses or educational uses?
Well, I can see a lot of people running up $100 a month phone bills using their computer to read an encyclopedia in Ann Arbor, Michigan, when they could be reading one at the library down the block. But other than that, no. A home computer is a definite luxury.
You mentioned that there are, of course, business uses for computers. Are you using computers in your business?
I'd sooner sell my dog and sailboat than my computers, yes. They're very valuable for anybody who does a lot of writing, working with a lot of numbers, even designing or architecture or drafting or drawing. They're incredibly valuable.
So you're really talking about the sales pitch to people who are not necessarily have business uses.
Right. If you can't find a way to make the computer pay for itself within 2 years, you have no business buying one.
Franklin Peterson, publisher of the Computer Insiders newsletter, thank you very much for giving us some fresh insights.
Thanks for talking, Nick.
Well, if you agree that there are problems in buying computers, or hardware as it's called, just wait till you try to buy the programs or software. Without them, the computer is no more useful than a car would be without highways, road maps, or gasoline. But unlike highways and road maps, computer software is largely invisible. It's hard enough to know what you want and need, and harder still to know what you're getting. And if you're confused, think about the dealers who must buy hundreds of programs. To help sell them what they'll sell you, the software industry has its own show called SoftCon. We went to watch. Here's Barry Stoner's report.
This is SoftCon, the first national trade show devoted entirely to computer software. It was held at the Superdome in New Orleans in February. On television, it's not particularly easy to show how exciting computer software can be.
I have trouble looking at this stuff on computers.
In the first place, all you've got to look at is a TV screen with green or white or sometimes black letters. If you're lucky, there might even be a little picture on the screen from time to time, but don't count on it. Now, the program itself might be fantastic, but unless you've got a couple of hours to sit down and work with it, forget trying to show any excitement. Basically, what you have is people and keyboards. Even software manufacturers at SoftCon were faced with the problem of making a computer program appear instantly exciting enough to get your attention. Some vendors use size to get your attention. The Apple Macintosh made a big showing at SoftCon, literally.
But in addition, I can go up and do some other things. Let me go up to the top. And you'll notice this little ruler up here. This is where we do all...
For a company that's trying to present a very compact personal computer, It seems strange that they would use a gigantic demonstration model. Maybe they're trying to compensate for having such a small screen on the real Macintosh. Other manufacturers try to entertain you.
We enable you at Informix to look at your data from many different angles so that the information you need is right at your fingertips. We call it database dexterity.
Anybody who can juggle and talk computerese at the same time deserves some attention, regardless of what she's selling.
Even fancy graphics or a spreadsheet so that you're never stuck with a dreaded dead-end system.
It's not that the show was dull. In fact, there were even a few surprises. While wandering around the aisles, gazing at one computer screen after another, we ran into a face that seemed vaguely familiar. Timothy Leary, grandfather of the psychedelic age of Aquarius, has gone high-tech.
Personal computers hooked up to personal brains can expand consciousness, increase intelligence, can give you hallucinations, can blow your mind, can allow you to change your brain patterns, can help you program your life. I think that there's an enormous vacuum which will be filled by personal computers in the fields of self-help, self-education, self-growth, spiritual, psychedelic, name it. It's not just word processing or calculators, it's learning how to program your own brain using your own personal computer as the guide and stimulus.
You may want to use a personal computer to guide your own personal brain, or just help with writing a letter or keeping your accounts in order. And if you do, sooner or later you're going to have to sit down and get interested in tiny letters on TV sets. Computer programs and computer software. That's what they're trying to excite you with at SoftCon.
Well, software may not be much to look at, but we have something for you that is. The laser. The laser keeps showing up on the New Tech Times because it's playing so many roles. It's the new transmission line for our telephone calls, the stylus on our video disc player, the magic stuff that makes three-dimensional holograms. And as we see this week, it's also the basis for a new art form, as light paints on nature. A Washington friend, Phil Stern, showed me my first laser art 10 or 15 years ago one night from his backyard. It's traveled light years since then. Here's a report produced by Dale Neitzel.
Lasers themselves can actually create images of enormous size. I've created images on cliffs and mountains and on clouds that were, I know they were a mile in diameter. In a dome theater, which is basically the type of theater that most of my shows are played in, the images can actually totally engulf a person. It means it's not only above them, it's all around to their sides, and that's an effect that you can't see really on any video screen or in film.
Floyd Rolfstad is owner and designer of Laser Fantasy Productions. His unique rainbow laser projection system allows artists to realize an entirely new medium in which computers and laser technology become the tools of the artist.
You can get all sorts of different things just by mixing frequencies, changing their phase.
Mike Padilla is a laser artist, working with one of Floyd's laser projectors at Seattle's Pacific Science Center.
So we have a total of 5 scanner sets, and we can put a total of 5 images up there on the screen. And it's all controlled electronically on this board here. Some of the images come off the tape machine, and they're routed through the board, and then I control them and move them around up there on the screen. Well, you're looking at just a dot right now. It's just a single beam. And so what I do is I get this dot, and I'll move it around very slowly with an oscillator. Right now it seems to be moving in a straight line. I'll speed it up a little bit, and I'll change what's called its phase, turn it into a circle. It gets a little faster, and now you can just barely make out a circle. And the reason you're seeing a circle is a chemical process in your eyes called persistence of vision, and what it does is have you perceive a rapidly moving dot as a solid line. Now I can add another image to it, I can add another frequency to it, or another circle, and I can get what's called a Lissajous pattern. There you go. Just add another circle to it. I can change the frequency, You can get all sorts of different shapes up there. When you get a pleasing shape, it's usually what's called a harmonic. And images are generated more or less just by mixing different frequencies.
The performances are a combination of music and laser image generated partly by computer, but always controlled by the laser artist.
Well, that's what we call a laser projector. Essentially, it has a laser, and in this case, it's called a Perf-Down laser. So it starts with the basic laser, which emits a pencil-thin beam of light. From there, we have to take that white beam and split it up into those 4 individual colors. And then these 4 individual beams, red, green, blue, and yellow, are then directed to what we call scanning devices. And so the moving dot of light, the termination of the beam on the screen, moved around precisionally and electronically, is the image. And that hardware is what basically comprises the laser projector. I think it's sort of my calling in life. I think that everybody, or a lot of people may find their calling in life, and a lot of people won't. Of all the things I guess I can do, I don't think there's anything that I can do as well as I can do this.
Lasers may be able to paint the sky, sort of the way God might have done if he or she had had the electronics. But when you're driving along the highway, you're more likely to be looking at billboards. As you may have guessed by now, the New Tech Times is making its mark in that medium of expression. When I was attending the University of Texas, I learned the Texans were proud of having the biggest of everything, including the world's largest bass drum and the marching band. They also bragged about the world's largest billboard somewhere outside Austin. Well, the eyes of Texas are now upon the world's most high-tech billboards, focused from Dallas. Here's a report.
Now, you may not like the idea of billboards scattered over the countryside cluttering up the scenery, but you've got to admit that even with the efforts of Lady Bird Johnson to beautify America by limiting them, billboards seem more visible now than ever before. And with all the roadside signs, the problem of how to catch your eye remains one of the greatest challenges for billboard advertisers. The plain old sign just doesn't have the oomph it takes to grab the attention of speeding motorists away from the flow of oncoming traffic. So the creators of roadside advertising have used every trick in the book to get their message across. The trouble is that as billboards became more and more expensive, it became impractical and costly to change the look of the ad or update information quickly. Just when the horizon looked bleak for the billboard advertising business, a new idea arose from the same state that brought you Lady Bird Johnson.
We really feel that we will change the face of the outdoor advertising business as we know it today.
What if you take a slide like the ones you see at home, then get a slide projector with a powerful bulb and project the picture? I mean, really project the picture.
Basically what we're doing is we're making this particular ad right here the size of a billboard.
That's the idea behind Cinema Billboards of Dallas, Texas, and they think they've got a better idea.
But we have just created a more attractive and a more visually entertaining billboard compared to your regular old eyesore billboard.
An attractive billboard? Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but the concept is appealing to advertisers who otherwise couldn't afford that billboard space.
It's very simple to change copy, and with the present day system, if you had your ad put up on a billboard, it would cost you an arm and a leg, right around $1,000 to have your copy changed, and it's just not feasible to do that, to where we change copy for $50.
Now an advertiser time shares with others as the slides change from message to message. But that's only the beginning of the high-tech future of billboards.
Yeah. Let's say that we have billboards in Florida and Alabama and Georgia. We will be able, through a computer, we're having a software package written for us to where we can operate those boards literally from Dallas, Texas. They will have burglar alarms on them. They will have wind sensors. They will be climated, controlled. We can focus the slide projectors from our Dallas office. It's really amazing what you can do with it.
Who knows what the highways of tomorrow will look like with slide projector billboards dotting the landscape. If it's cheap enough, people may even use them to show slides of their last vacation to all the travelers. In the New Tech Times, almost anything is possible.
Perhaps the lesson in that piece is that the new electronics really does reflect our desires and direction. The same technology that can help teachers educate in the classroom can also entertain us with family pictures in the home, or be used to project advertising on billboards. Democracy requires that we all take part in politics if we are to affect our government. And the new electronics also requires our participation if we are to shape its impact upon our lives. From college computers to everyone's software, from laser art to billboards, we hope this week's show has helped all of us to understand the issues. We'll have more for you next week, like these stories.
In the next edition of the New Tech Times, computers turn Seattle invisible as a novel idea takes off. Also, a look at composer-musician Peter Nero's electronic cottage and Carol Larson's low-tech kitchen. This and more in the next edition of the New Tech Times.
So join me then, won't you? For the New Tech Times staff, I'm Nicholas Johnson.
The New Tech Times has been brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change, Wausau works. And by the collective voice of the consumer electronics industry, the CEG, the Consumer Electronics Group, Electronic Industries Association.
For a transcript of this program, send $3 to program number 123, the New Tech Times, 821 University Avenue, Madison, Wisconsin, 53706. Or you can now communicate electronically with the New Tech Times. Just call the source or CompuServe and select the New Tech Times online.
The whale shark, one of the largest creatures in the world, lives in the waters off Baja California. Here, too, are other giants of the sea, the huge gray whale, the basking shark, and the largest animal the world has ever known, the blue whale.